Thanks for joining me today. I wanted to talk more about David Wilcock. He came in again this morning when I was deep in trance and out of the body. So I just wanted to share. This is the second time that he's come in, and I thought it was really very interesting. Um, and the first video that I recorded, you can go back and it's named David Wilcock Experience. So today, very interesting. He was with the Pleiadians, and I don't have any background or anything. I don't even know if that's his origin or anything, but it seemed as though that that was his origin. And so he's with the Pleiadians on this incredible craft, huge, enormous, and I was so enamored when I saw it, and then he's like, "You want to come in?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he took me into the craft, and it was just enormous, and I things were happening so fast that sometimes when I'm deep in that state, I'll either talk out loud or I'll make noises or I'll start to write. But this time I could not talk. I tried. I mean, there was so much information being exchanged so fast that I couldn't even ask, like, form the words to speak out loud. It was very interesting, and I really tried hard to, ask the questions, verbally out loud from my mouth, and it did not work. It was very interesting. So, and this was while we're in the craft ship, whatever you want to call it. Um, so I was asking, I was, telepathically, I mean, we're just streamlining so fast. The energy was extraordinary. David is functioning in at a very high frequency, like extremely high frequency. And he was very present, very clear. He looked amazing. And in his, I saw him like in a physical form, right? Like a clear as day. But auditorial, like I could hear his voice is so crystal clear and so present that there's no misunderstanding that it's not him. I mean, it's him. It's like, very interesting. So he was showing me around the craft, and I was asking him, as he's showing me all this information and showing me, um, it was made out of photonic light, this incredible high caliber photonic light and fiber optics. And fiber optics that we have not seen yet here on Earth. And I asked him, are we gonna see this, here on Earth? And he's yeah, in a couple of years. And I'm just like, oh, okay, And so then sound, we started having this um, communication of sound, and this is what he was a part of when he was here in the physical form, and he was working on panels and sound, and it was quite extraordinary. And so, and he was enamored with it. That, he had a very passionate heart of when he dove into a project, he put his all in it. And I don't think a lot of people understand the depth of David. And so I wanted to share that and convey the depth that David had. I personally did not know him. I wasn't a big follower or anything. So I'm just, I'm reporting what my experience was with him this morning. So that's what I want to be very clear and convey. And he's really funny. I mean, all these pieces of him came out this morning, and I'll share with you because I thought it was like I literally could actually laugh out loud, and I did, and it was so funny. And he's like, "Wait a minute!" And then, like, he dashed out, and then came back, and he's all, "Got my suit on, my he's all, I got my A suit on," and I'm like, what? He's all super suit. I'm like, what? And so he appears in front of me in his super suit with a big, huge A on it. And I'm like, what? And it was the funniest thing it was hilarious. And I just couldn't stop laughing. So he's funny. And I don't know what the A meant, but all I saw was him in this super suit. And it was just like, yeah, I got my game on, it was really, really funny. So I just wanted to share that. Maybe, somebody out there that's listening to this has a frame of reference. Maybe you had a conversation with it. Maybe he did have a super suit. I have no idea. But, it's just fascinating. Anyway, so that was a segment. And then we were in a forest, and I was, again, we're in this huge, huge craft, and it's incredible. I mean, and the vibration is so incredibly high. I mean, very high frequency within sound, and you can't hear the sound, but you can hear the sound, if that makes sense. You can hear them in the very high levels of quantum realms, if you will, if you want to put it in a parameter like that. But if we were here, we could not hear it at all. And it goes way beyond like a dog whistle, all that stuff, way beyond that. So it was very interesting. But it was, it's like movement within the sound and within it was all photonic light and fiber optics. And then I asked him, I was like, what do we do in the forest? I'm like, and it was this very dense, beautiful forest, and what I saw, I could see outside as well. Like I could see everything. I could when we're in the craft and then outside of the craft, it was just like and that's why when I'm trying to explain the how fast it was like this. I mean, the information was like but around us were just all these dense trees. And it was dark, and it was, but very beautiful. You could smell, it smelled really dense, beautiful, like forest smell, I guess you could say. Um, and the trees were quite large, and the trunk of the tree were smaller. So it was very interesting. Um, but then it's like, how did the craft fit in there? I don't know. Just like, and then I started asking him, like, is this a shapeshifter? Does it shapeshift? And he's like, "Pff, yeah. He's all, yo, uh, David is funny. And he's just like, like, yep, shapeshifting. So it's like this shape-shifting craft that can meander and shape shift through this dense forest. And that's how it got in there. And then we were in the forest. And then it was hovering over these blades of grass. So this was really interesting too. So David's like, look at the grass. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's look at the grass. So we focused in on the molecules within every sliver of the grass. And I'm like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we focused in on this? And he said, look at the dew, the water, the dew, like dewdrops. And then all of a sudden we, focused in on the dewdrops. And I was like, well, what are you doing with the dewdrops? What are you doing with that water? And he goes, well, we're on an expedition, like an extrapolation expedition. I was like, wow, okay. And his eyes just got so big and so excited, and he was just so incredibly happy. And so he's on this, expedition, extrapolating um, water, dew on grass. But the bigger, broader picture was what I received and what I was experiencing when we were all there together, the Pleiadians and David and myself, that they were on a, an expedition, um, extracting certain molecules, certain elements from our planet. So it was just really interesting. Meaning our planet Earth, not sure, didn't ask. Were we on another planet perhaps? Maybe, is there a dense forest that, I saw here on Earth? Maybe, right? Um, but again, it was really, really interesting. Anyway, so that, and that whole piece of it was incredibly high vibrational, extraordinary. My body, it took a long time, longer than I've ever have experienced to actually come back in my body. And I've had thousands of out of body experiences. And I want to say this is the one that took me a very long time to get back in my body. And why? And I grappled with it because when I was with David and the Pleiadians, and the Pleiadians weren't really interacting, they were just observing and with us. It was very interesting. But they were kind of busy too. Like they were doing their thing and extracting what they were on the mission to do. But I was just so I was with David pretty much the whole time, and and him being a comedian and having his fun, and just witnessing him so incredibly happy, um, just elated what he was doing. And I was, so for me as an observer, when I'm up and out of the body, I'm observing what I'm observing. I'm in it, but I'm not of it, if that makes sense. So it was very interesting. It was very beautiful. And but coming back was very difficult because of that. I was so enamored with his process, and I was so enamored with the vibration. It was extraordinary. And then I was so inquisitive, like, oh, have we seen a craft here? Are we, what's really happening? What are we going to see it? And uh, has this been created? And so these were my questions when I was there. And it's like, nope, it can never be duplicated. And I'm just like, well, why? And David's like, look underneath it. So we're like underneath the craft, looking up, and it was sentient. It was purely sentient and breathing and alive and beautiful. And it was almost like these like pods would open underneath and go like pick up the dew. It was just amazing. It was just like this, picking up certain, you know, um, yeah, particles, molecules, elements, what they were wanting to extract. It was just amazing. But because of that, it was very difficult for me to come back into my body. And there was even a part where, I said goodbye to David and I was so excited and I was just like, um, wished him well and until the next time, maybe he'll come in tomorrow. I don't know. Um, as I was saying goodbye to him, it was very difficult for my physical body to come back here and ground because I was so in awe and so overwhelmed by the love and the connection and the depth that was happening. Um, it was very difficult to separate myself. And so it took me about 45 minutes, which is such a long time for me. Usually I just, I come right back in. And this morning was a completely different experience. I was happy to experience it, but it was difficult, and at one point I was crying, and I was just enamored with the process and then crying like, oh, I have to come back. I have to come back into my body, and then I would freeze like I would get to a point where I just freeze. And I was like, and then little by little, I would be like, okay, okay. And I actually had to, when I could use my words and speak with my voice, I had to really talk myself down, like, and ground and and do all the usual process and procedures that I go through to actually ground myself back in from an out of body experience. And it was just really extraordinary. And I just wanted to share that because there was parts that uh, perhaps are helpful for some. I don't know. Perhaps are add a little, I don't know, comedy in your life and or connection with David, or oh, he, maybe you'll hear something within this video that you'll resonate with and and feel comforted by, perhaps. So just wanted to share my experience this morning with David Wilcock and the Pleiadians and the supersuit. So funny. Anyway, just wanted to share. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, join my Patreon page, and for more. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Corina Angela, and thank you again.